Picking up from where we left off with part 1 in chapter 15, this is measurement and evaluation. Here we go. The most common type of performance is financial performance. This is often simplified to mean profits, but in fact, financial performance means much more than this. It can include revenue, costs, debts, liquidity, and security. But for both operational and strategic appraisal purposes, it's necessary to examine the different strands of performance as accountancy does. Efficiency is concerned with achieving objectives and targets at minimum cost and considers the best possible relationship between inputs and outputs. Efficiency is sometimes given the terms cost effectiveness or cost efficiency, and is also what is meant by the terms productivity and value for money. Effectiveness is concerned solely with the achievement of output targets. It does not therefore consider the costs of achieving the output targets. A basic measure of effectiveness is throughput volume, such as the number of visits in a given time period. An example being the number of bathers at a swimming pool. However, this is a rather basic indicator because it contains no indication of the types of visitors who've been attracted, nor the extent to which the service has met the needs of the visitors. Market share is an important objective that is normally measurable even at the local or regional level. Market share is one indicator for a major concern for organizational performance, the demand for the product. It is vital for any organization from whatever sector to be informed about changes in demand for the service it is providing. Market research is a typical means of generating this evidence. There are numerous variables that influence organizational effectiveness, including changes in the organizational structure, the implementation of new technologies, opportunities and threats in the environment that affect the sport facility and the people using the sport facility, both customers and human resources. Regardless of the type of human resources, it is important to recognize the individual differences between people. The sport facility manager has a number of responsibilities inherent in this area. These include developing the values and principles for leading and managing people in the sport facility, defining the strategies to be utilized, developing the policies to guide all human resources, and implementing the procedures and methods to apply those policies, thus creating a human resource management structure for the sport facility. Human resources have significant costs to the sport facility in the forms of outlay of payroll, benefits, and other perks. They also have significant costs as their actions or lack thereof as service providers could lead to additional expenses or reductions of revenues. And your staff turnover ratios. The basic point is that which gets measured gets managed. So therefore, managers need to be clear about what their priorities are and what measures they need to monitor in order to demonstrate personal, team, facility, and corporate effectiveness. Measuring employee behaviors and attitudes in sport facility and event management is important for several reasons. Number one, improving employee engagement and satisfaction. Measuring employee attitudes and behaviors can help managers identify areas where employees may be dissatisfied or disengaged with their work. By addressing these issues, managers can create a more positive work environment and improve employee morale, leading to higher job satisfaction and lower turnover rates. Number two, enhancing the customer experience. Employee attitudes and behaviors have significant impact on the customer experience. By measuring employee performance and providing feedback, managers can improve the quality of customer service and create a more positive experience for customers. Number three, identifying areas for improvement. Measuring employee behaviors and attitudes can help managers identify areas where employees may need additional training or support. By addressing these areas, managers can improve employee performance and overall operational efficiency. Number four, promoting accountability. Measuring employee behaviors and attitudes can help promote a culture of accountability, where employees are held responsible for their performance and behavior. This can help create a more productive and professional workplace environment. Overall, measuring employee behaviors and attitudes is an important tool for sport facility and event managers to create a positive workplace culture. improve employee performance, and enhance the overall customer experience. Measuring the economic impact of sport facilities and events is important for understanding the economic benefits that they bring to a region or community. There are two types of economic impacts, direct and indirect. Direct economic impact refers to the money spent by visitors on goods and services in the region as a result of the sport facility or event. This includes spending on things like tickets, food and beverage, transportation, and lodging. Indirect economic impact refers to the secondary effects of the spending generated by the sport facility or event. For example, the money spent by visitors on hotels and restaurants can lead to increased employment and wages for workers in those industries, and those workers in turn spend money in the local economy. Common multipliers are used to estimate the indirect economic impact of sport facilities and events. Multipliers take into account the ripple effects of spending on the local economy. For example, the total economic impact of a sport facility or event can be calculated by multiplying the direct spending by a multiplier that reflects the total economic activity generated by that spending. Some common multipliers used in the sport facility and event industry include employment multipliers that estimate the number of jobs created or supported by the direct spending generated by the sport facility or event. Output multipliers estimate the total economic activity generated by the direct spending, taking into account the ripple effects of that spending on other industries in the region. And income multipliers estimate the total income generated by the direct spending, taking into account the ripple effects of that spending on wages and salaries for workers in other industries. Overall, measuring the economic impact of sport facilities and events is important for understanding their contribution to the local economy and for making informed decisions about investments in these industries. When measuring the economic impact of sport facility and event management, it's important to follow the following 5 invaluable principles in consideration of the factors you've mentioned. Use reliable data sources. Reliable and credible data sources such as government statistics, industry records, or data collected by independent research firms should be used to ensure the accuracy of the analysis. Use a consistent methodology. A consistent methodology should be used to ensure that the results are comparable over time and across different events or facilities. Account for opportunity costs. Opportunity costs such as the exclusion of residents and deflectors should be accounted for when measuring economic impact to ensure that the analysis is accurate and credible. Communicate clearly and transparently. Clear and transparent communication of the methodology, the data sources, assumptions, and limitations of the analysis is important to ensure the credibility of the results. Careful interpretation of employment measures. Employment measures should be interpreted carefully, taking into account factors such as temporary or part-time employment and not overestimated as a measure of the economic impact. In addition to these 5 principles, the following factors should also be considered when measuring economic impact. The exclusion of time switchers and casuals. People who would have spent money in the local economy regardless of the sport facility or event, such as time switchers. These are local residents who would have spent money in the local economy anyway, but choose to spend it at the sport facility or event instead. And casuals, these are visitors who are in the area for other reasons and happen to attend the sport facility or event. Should be excluded to avoid overestimating the economic impact. Use of income rather than sales output as measures of economic impact. Measuring economic impact in terms of income generated rather than sales output is preferable, as it accounts for the economic value added by the sport facility or event. Use of multiplier coefficients rather than multipliers. Multiplier coefficients, which measure the indirect and induced economic impacts of the sport facility or event, should be used instead of multipliers to avoid double counting. By following these inviolable rules, principles, and considering the factors mentioned, the economic impact of sport facility and event management can be accurately and credibly measured. Measuring the environmental impact of sport facilities and events is important to understand the potential negative effects they may have on the environment. and to identify ways to mitigate these impacts. Here are some considerations when measuring the environmental impact of sport facility and event management. Number one, resource consumption. Measuring the amount of resources such as energy, water, and materials consumed during the construction, operation, and dismantling of the sport facility or event is an important step in understanding its environmental impact. Waste generation. Measuring the amount and type of waste generated during the sport facility or event is important in identifying opportunities to reduce waste and improve recycling and composting efforts. Greenhouse or gas emissions. Measuring the amount of greenhouse gas emissions generated during the construction, operation, and dismantling of the sport facility or event, as well as associated with transportation and travel, is important in understanding its impact on climate change. Biodiversity impact. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on local biodiversity, including flora and fauna, can help identify potential areas for improvement in sustainable land management practices. Community impact. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on the local community, including noise pollution, traffic congestion, and potential health impacts. It is important in identifying opportunities to minimize negative impacts and maximize positive impacts. Sustainable procurement. Measuring the environmental impact of the products and services procured for the sport facility or event is important in identifying opportunities to reduce the environmental impact of the supply chain. And lifestyle impact. Measuring the environmental impact of the sport facility or event over its entire life cycle, including construction, operation, and dismantling. It is important in understanding the full extent of its impact on the environment. Measuring the environmental impact of sport facility and event management requires a comprehensive and integrated approach that takes into account all aspects of the facility or event's impact on the environment. By measuring these impacts and identifying opportunities for improvement, sport facility and event managers can help reduce their environmental footprint and contribute to a more sustainable future. Measuring the social impact of sport facilities and events is an important step in understanding the potential positive and negative social outcomes of their operations. Here are some key considerations when measuring the social impact of sport facility and event management. Community engagement. Measuring the level of community engagement and participation in the sport facility or event can help identify opportunities for improving community relations and building positive social outcomes. Social cohesion. Measuring the level of social cohesion and connectedness among community members can help identify the extent to which the sport facility and event is contributing to a sense of community identity and belonging. Health and well-being. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on the physical and mental health and well-being of community members, including participants and spectators, can help identify opportunities to promote healthy lifestyles and positive social outcomes. Youth development. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on youth development, including the acquisition of life skills and the promotion of positive social behaviors, can help identify opportunities to promote positive social outcomes among young people. And social equity. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on social equity, including the extent to which it promotes diversity and inclusion and provides access and opportunity for all community members, can help identify areas for improvement in promoting positive social outcomes. Education and training. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on education and training, including the development of job skills and training opportunities for community members, can help identify opportunities to promote positive social outcomes and support economic development. Philanthropic impact. Measuring the impact of the sport facility or event on philanthropy, including the amount and type of charitable donations and volunteerism generated, can help identify opportunities to promote positive social outcomes and build strong relationships with the community. Measuring the social impact of sport facility and event management requires a comprehensive and integrated approach that takes into account all aspects of the facility or event's impact on the social well-being of the community. By measuring these impacts and identifying opportunities for improvement, sport facility and event managers can help promote positive social outcomes and contribute to the overall well-being of the community. Sport facilities and events can have many positive impacts on the environment, community, and economy. Here are some of the positive impacts. The economic impact. Sport facilities and events can generate significant economic benefits for local communities, including job creation, increased tourism, and revenue for local businesses. Community engagement. Sport facilities and events can promote community engagement and foster a sense of community pride and identity. They can also bring people from diverse backgrounds together, promoting social cohesion and integration. Health and well-being. Participating in sports and physical activities can promote physical and mental health and well-being. Sport facilities and events can provide opportunities for people to be physically active and engage in healthy behaviors. Youth development. Sport facilities and events can promote youth development by providing opportunities for young people to develop important life skills such as teamwork, leadership, and discipline. They can also provide positive role models for young people to look up to. Environmental impact. Sports facility and events can promote environmental sustainability by incorporating green practices such as using renewable energy sources and minimizing waste and reducing carbon emissions. And legacy. Sport facilities and events can leave a lasting legacy in the communities where they are held, providing a platform for ongoing community development, social inclusion, and economic growth. While sport facilities and events can have many positive impacts, they can also have negative impacts on the environment, community, and economy. Here are some examples of negative impacts. Environmental impact. Large sporting events can have a significant environmental impact, including increased energy consumption, greenhouse gas emissions, and waste generation. This can contribute to climate change and other environmental problems. Traffic congestion. Sporting events can cause traffic congestion and air pollution due to the high volume of vehicles traveling to and from the event. Noise pollution. Sporting events can generate high levels of noise pollution, which can be disruptive to nearby residents and wildlife. Displacement of local residents. Large sporting events can lead to the displacement of local residents, especially if they're held in densely populated urban areas. This can lead to social and economic disruption for affected communities. Economic impact on small businesses. While sporting events can generate revenue for local businesses, they can also have a negative impact on small businesses, especially if they are located in the immediate vicinity of the event. Crowds and security. Large sporting events can be a security risk and can lead to overcrowding, which can create safety concerns for attendees and residents in the surrounding area. And social inequalities. Sporting events can exacerbate existing social inequalities, especially if ticket prices and other costs associated with attending the event are prohibitively expensive for low-income individuals and families. Sport facilities and events have the potential to generate many positive impacts for local communities, promoting social, economic, and environmental sustainability. It is important for sport facility and event managers to consider and maximize these positive impacts while also taking steps to mitigate any negative impacts that may arise. It is important to consider both the positive and negative impacts of facility and event management and take steps to mitigate any negative impacts that may arise. By doing so, we can ensure that sporting events are sustainable, equitable, and beneficial to both the local economy and the environment. The social return on investment, or SROI model, is a framework for measuring the social, environmental, and economic value generated by an organization or initiative. It is increasingly being used in the context of sport facility and event management to measure the impact of sport on local communities. The SROI model takes into account both the tangible and intangible benefits generated by a sport facility or event, including social outcomes such as community engagement, health and well-being, and youth development. It also considers environmental outcomes such as carbon emissions and waste reduction, and economic outcomes such as job creation and revenue generation. The SROI model involves a detailed analysis of the inputs, outputs, and outcomes of a sport facility or event, as well as the social, environmental, and economic value generated by these activities. It involves a rigorous process of stakeholder engagement, data collection, and analysis, and can help sport facility and event managers to identify areas where they can improve their social, environmental, and economic performance. The SROI model is particularly useful in the context of sport facility and event management because it can help to demonstrate the value of sport to local communities, stakeholders, and funders by providing a clear and transparent measure of the social, environmental, and economic impact of sport. The SROI model can help to build support for sport initiatives and encourage investment in sport facilities and events. Social impact assessment is a process of identifying, measuring, and evaluating the social impact of a project or an initiative. In the context of sport facility and event management, social impact assessment can help to identify the positive and negative social outcomes of sport initiatives and develop strategies to maximize the positive impacts and minimize the negative impacts. Social impact assessment typically involves several stages, including identification of stakeholders. It's the first step in social impact assessment to identify the stakeholders who may be affected by the sport facility or environment or event. This includes local communities, residents, participants, volunteers, and other interested parties. Social impact analysis. The next step is to analyze the social impacts of the sport facility or event. This involves identifying the positive and negative social outcomes such as community engagement, health and well-being, social inclusion, and economic development. Social impact analysis may involve surveys, interviews, focus groups, and other data collection methods. The third step is to evaluate the social impact of the sport facility or event. This involves assessing the significance and magnitude of the social impacts and determining whether they meet the desired goals and objectives. The final step is to develop strategies to mitigate the negative impacts and enhance the positive impacts of the sport facility or event. This may involve developing community outreach programs, promoting sustainable practices, and providing training and support for volunteers and participants. Social impact assessment is an important tool for sport facility and event managers to ensure their initiatives are socially responsible and contribute positively to the local community. By identifying the positive and negative social outcomes of sport and developing strategies to maximize the positive impacts and minimize the negative impacts, sport facility and event managers can build support for their initiatives and contribute to the overall well-being of the local community. And these are my references here. Thank you for visiting with me today and look forward to talking with you again another day. Thanks. Have a great day.